I can tell you that my position on leadership is an evolved position, and it's definitely come full circle, to the point that my perspective is your employee is your customer. The same exact exercises that we do in mapping out customer journeys, like I can tell you that where I am now, what my team and I have been spending a ton of time on is mapping out the employee journey from the initial posting to the time they get promoted to another position in the company, and we have about 9 steps in between, so it's about a 10-step journey. And for every single one of those steps, we've mapped out what are the obstacles, what are the issues, what are the pros, what are the cons, and how are we mitigating the issues, how are we serving that employee. So this idea of servant leadership is that your employee is your customer. I believe strongly in hiring well and spending an intense amount of time and scrutiny on the front, which I think in contact centers particularly can sometimes be challenging. There's a real pressure to hire quickly when you see a lot of calls waiting, or chats, or social responses, or any kind of interaction that we manage these days, and you see all that volume that's not getting responded to quickly. There's an immense pressure to fill the role. And our philosophy is the opposite. I would much rather have a bad experience, a slow experience for customers for a very short period of time, while we take the time to hire well.
As a leader in an organization, when I've had to disappoint people, when I've had to say no to somebody for a job that I know they think they should have, or say no to them for a deal they think they should get approved, or what have you, I am actually judging how they react to that situation. Whether they're going to ultimately be successful or not, it often depends on how they react to that kind of a disappointment. So it's very, very important that you learn that skill early in your career.
I think about leadership first in first leading yourself, right? Because if you can't lead yourself, you really don't have a leg to stand on. We always talk about things like walk the talk and that kind of thing, but truthfully, it's real, right? If you're not willing to be bold, or you're not willing to get comfortable being uncomfortable, or you're more focused on you need to change, not me, right? Then it's really, really hollow. So I think that leadership actually starts with yourself, although most people think about it as something you do for other people.
I think, back to your comment about the language and the blessings, I think good leaders are grateful, usually for the experiences they've had, and are very appreciative of the people they work with, and value the gifts that the individuals they work with, whether it's clients or their employees, bring. And it's all about optimizing that from my perspective. Good leaders want to learn. Good leaders, and we've talked about this, are servant leaders. And good leaders are aspirational. It's much more than just a job or a product. Their purpose is higher than that. I think they see through some of the day-to-day and what they're trying to achieve for themselves, for their people, and their communities.
I think it starts with your people, but it really starts with leadership. Making sure people understand the vision of what your product is, what you stand for, whether it's your company or your unit that you're part of. Making sure everybody understands all the way through exactly what you're trying to achieve, what to say yes to, what to say no to, and why. And why is really important, why you do things the way you do it. And I think that's key. The output of that will produce a consistent experience. But it really foundationally comes back to leadership and vision.
Our job is to really identify all the things that we're doing as leaders, particularly in contact centers, that really do stand in the way of great customer experience, and help them remove those obstacles, support them, coach them, and develop them. You hire well, instead of spending hours and hours and hours in a performance management practice, in disciplinary action, you can spend hours and hours and hours in actually developing someone's skill, like developing their craft, making them the best at what they do, and then if they wish to, helping them develop themselves into other roles.
For me, I always feel like I want to focus on how are we inspiring people to do better, or at least bring the best of what they can bring to whatever they're doing. So whether that means you're inspiring someone to find a new level where we can say, hey, you're using this much of your skill set, but there's so much more you could do. You've got more talent to use. How do we help you untap that? I think that's part of leadership. I think it's also about being there for people in the tough times. So when the business requires something that maybe doesn't perfectly mesh with what your personal needs are, or when something is more difficult because it's busier or times are more challenging, how do we help keep people engaged to want to get through those things versus sort of having the option to opt out?
As a leader, my job is to get people to most of the time take the door that's hard, right? It's in the short term, it's yummy and it's easy and I won't look stupid and I won't fail and all those kind of things. And that's the easy door most of the time. And so if I think about the role of a leader, in many cases, it's about getting people to take the hard door. It's not necessarily easy. It's taking the hard door even though they really want to take the other one. And so I think about that in terms of a leader's job is to, do lots of things. It's to make, our why your why, and to be able to do them. But I think most of the time it's actually to get them to do something that's hard. And I think that's why leadership is so important now than when I started. Management was really big. You just repeated the same thing you've always done and expect a different result. And now I think we don't really have a guidebook for this thing. And so it's to get them to do something that's uncomfortable, something that is unknown, something that is emotionally challenging, and all that is the hard door. So I think about, the situations that we ask people to go in, and I think that's a big part of the leader's job.
To me, the definition of leadership, and what I've seen where I would consider someone a leader, are people who set expectations to go achieve something and then support the people who they take with them on that journey. That's the simplified version. Management is different because that's managing risks and managing people and making sure they do what they're supposed to do. But leadership is set an expectation, establish a goal that's somewhere over there. It's not what we do today. It's not the status quo. It's something a little more or a lot more. And then help people and the whole team, no matter how big that team, help them to achieve that goal. To me, that's the essence, the nugget of what leadership is.